works out that it's not a double Pasha, it comes separately, but
Didn't we do this last week? I know I'm getting confused.
no,
Okay.
last week we did Nitzavim.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got confused. Okay.
Yep.
I'll start with the Haftorah. I have to be honest. I'm really tired. I've been, other than the singing and everything, I've done a lot today, and I just want to sing. I say the Haftorah, and when anybody else wants to read after that, I'll be very happy.
And Monique had asked, she'd emailed me just to ask if we were on tonight, and I said yes, so hopefully she'll be here.
Yes,
Dr.
and
Red said
and she also emailed me and texted me that she didn't have the number, and I said it's the regular number, but I gave it to her anyways with the password. So she should
yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she was confused from last week. Okay.
Dr. Red said he'll try to be here, but he's not sure.
Yeah. Well, no, he has a meeting. He told me he has a meeting. Yeah. Okay. Let me start. We start with seek the eternal, right? Okay. Seek the eternal. I got to make this a little bigger. Can't see anymore. Seek the eternal while there is still time. Call out while God is near. Let the wicked forsake their ways and the sinful their thoughts. Let them return to the eternal, who will show them compassion, to our God, who is quick to forgive. For my thoughts are not like yours. Whoops, wait a minute. Nor are your ways like mine, says the Eternal One. For high is the heavens above the earth, so are my ways high above your ways, and my thoughts above your thoughts. Just as rain and snow come down from the sky without returning, but water the earth, making it blossom and bear fruit, yielding seed for sowing and bread to eat. So it is with the word that comes from my mouth. Oops. Okay. It does not return to me unfulfilled, without having accomplished my desire and achieved what I send it to do. For you shall go out in joy, you shall be led forth in peace. Before you, mountains and hills shall break out in joyous song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Cypresses shall grow instead of the thorn bushes, myrtle instead of briar. These shall be a monument to God, an everlasting sign that will stand firm. Thus says the Eternal One, maintain justice and do what is right, for my salvation is close at hand, and revealed shall be my my vindication. Wait a minute, can I just say something? Isn't this God talking? Am I?
Yeah.
Wait. Before you say anything, Mike, it says, thus says the Eternal One, maintain justice and do what is right, for my salvation is close at hand, and revealed shall be my vindication. Why would God say that about himself, that he needs salvation?
Well, one of the things that you're touching on, and I think that we talked about it either last week or the week before that. So we're just going to repeat it.
Okay.
The book of Isaiah is by far the most difficult book in the Bible.
Oh, yes, we talked about that. Yeah.
Okay. And the problem is that you don't know who is speaking many times.
Right.
You don't know who is being addressed.
Right.
And you start talking about one thing, and then in the next verse, you get something completely different.
Right.
Okay,
because
so,
there's two different writings, wasn't that?
Two different writings, so maybe more than two. Okay, so if we go to the one above on 13, okay, God is speaking, right?
Yeah.
As the cypresses will grow instead of this, myrtle.
Yeah, that was very nice, all that good stuff.
Okay, then it says, these shall be a monument to God. It should be, these shall be a monument to me.
To God. Right, that's crazy, yeah.
Am I right?
You're right. It is very confusing. That's why I had to stop. Yeah.
Could I say one thing, though? But you were saying that why does God need salvation? God's not talking about saving himself. God is saying that his salvation of us is close at hand.
But it says my vindication. In other words, God is getting vindicated.
Right. He'll be proven to the people once he saves everybody, and that will prove again to the people God's power.
So I agree with Gary. I think Gary's right on with that.
Okay.
It is.
Oh.
God is saying that the people, when my salvation, I am close to, the time when I'll be saving them. And when I do that, I'll be vindicated. They'll see that I am truly. That's the way it sounds to me. Like, not
Okay.
even, like,
All right.
no.
All right.
No.
And also
Yeah.
the vindication meaning, I think, like, because I think we all have questions about God's rules and his, all the things that were written down and how can they be this way or that way. And I feel like there is a time where it's all going to be revealed, like everything will be revealed in some way. And that is God's vindication, his or her vindication.
I see.
I think that's how I would look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong, but I'm just saying, like, to me personally, that's exactly the way I see it.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I think I'm too literal. That's my problem. I read something and it kind of, I have to go over it again.
Oh, God bless you. You gotta,
Okay, let me continue. Happy is the one who does this, the person that holds fast to it, who keeps the Sabbath lest it be profaned, who keeps from all wrongdoing. Nevermore let the foreigner who has joined the Eternal say, the Eternal will keep me apart from God's people, and nevermore let the eunuch say, I am but a withered tree. For thus says the Eternal One to those eunuchs who keep my Sabbath and choose what pleases me and hold fast to my covenant. Okay. In my house, within my walls, I will give you a monument and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give you an everlasting name that will never be cut off. As for the foreigners who join themselves to the Eternal in love and service, who keep the Sabbath, lest it be profaned, and hold fast to my covenant.
Okay, all right, let's hold on here for a second.
Okay, sure.
Okay. If we go to this verse 5, second line,
Yeah.
I give you a monument and a name, Yad Vashem.
Oh.
See it?
Interesting.
That's where we got the Yad Vashem.
Oh.
I will get because essentially what the interpretation is from Isaiah is that even if you die, that it doesn't matter, that there will always be a place for you, in God's new world. Okay.
Right.
So when you take a look at all of these people during the Holocaust that were burned,
Right.
not just shot and then buried,
Yeah.
the ones that were burned, and
Right.
they went up in flames. Okay, Yad Vashem means it doesn't matter what it was, we will always give you a name and a place.
And Yad Vashem means like the hand of God.
No. Yad Vashem means a monument, a place, and a name, or a monument and a name. Take a look at the translation.
You know what else is interesting about this too? God is saying this, like it said to a eunuch, right?
Oh.
So you look at like in the Bible, like there are certain times, like if you're maimed in your private parts, like you can't go into the temple or stuff like that. But here it's almost like saying that no matter what you are, still, if you believe in me and you follow then I will still, and that would apply like even nowadays, like to anybody that you would think is marginalized, like people, any minorities or even like LGBTQ or whatever,
Right.
that God would say, well, like I tell you not to do this, but if you basically still follow my, you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. But can I just ask you something? Okay. Here's my literalness again. I thought yad in Hebrew is hand.
But in this particular case, the translation is monument. It could also be a place. In other words, a name and a place. So regardless of what happened to you during the Holocaust, whatever happened,
right?
We will give you. You will remain in our memories.
I see.
Because our memories will be your resting place.
I see. Okay. I have so much trouble with Hebrew then, because I'm trying to learn Hebrew, and then I see a word that I thought I know what I know, and
it's just like the word divarim means words,
yes,
but it also means things, doesn't it? It means things or words. How do you know which it means?
Oh, see, I always thought it was just words. See, that's I'm not as knowledgeable in Hebrew as other people are. So okay, all right. So that's where I don't know. You're right. I suppose it has more meanings than I'm only thinking one meaning. So that's my hang up. It's okay. I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
way. Make an underground great.
Okay.
It's
So
all
where
good
did
underground.
I end off? Where was I? Oh, as for the foreigners who join themselves to the eternal in love and service, who keep the Sabbath, lest it be profane, and hold fast to my covenant, I will bring them to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. I will accept the burnt offerings and sacrifices they offer on my altar. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. That's where we get the house of prayer.
Yeah.
This is the promise of the eternal God who brings Israel's exiles home. I will yet bring more home besides those I've already brought. That's a wonderful future, prophetic saying right there.
That's like the most positive.
And that's where we get the word Beit Tefillah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most positive Haftarah that we've read, right?
I like
the
that
rest.
Haftarah.
The rest are all,
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, the rest are all fire and brimstone, and this is like, oh, everything's
You know
gonna
what?
be nice.
I would like to read this before we go on. I want to read this Italian, this little tiny thing here, because it says something about Yom Kippur. It says this passage, unknown author, and it says Deutero Isaiah.
Yeah, Deutero Isaiah.
What?
Deutero Isaiah. Second Isaiah.
Oh, the second Isaiah. Okay. Addressed to people who had for decades lived as exiles in Babylon, 6th century BCE. The prophet preached trust in a God who would surely restore Israel to its homeland. During the 10 days of repentance, this Haftarah's first verse stands out. Seek the eternal while there is still time. Get your life in order now, the prophet urges us. Among Ashkenazim, two traditions exist for years when Vayilach is the Sidra on the Shabbat before Yom Kippur. Majority custom, Haftarah for Shabbat Shuvah before Yom Kippur, Haftarah for Ha'azinu on the Shabbat after Yom Kippur. Thus, Haftarah with Vayilach as such is not recited. Minority custom, Haftarah with Vayilach before Yom Kippur. Hosea plus the coda from. Okay, I just thought there was something they were trying to explain about Yom Kippur. So they're saying that there's some that you say before and some you say after. I just thought.
I read it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so we finished.
We finished that Haftarah. How many more readings in Deuteronomy? Is there like 2 more after today?
Not many more. Pretty soon we're going to be off of Deuteronomy. We're going to finish with Deuteronomy.
Right. We'll be finished soon. All right. So if somebody else like to take over, I'm just a little tired more than usual tonight.
I'll read.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Oh. Moses went and spoke these things to all Israel. He said to them, I am now 120 years old. I can no longer be active. Moreover, the Eternal has said to me, You shall not go across yonder Jordan. It is indeed the Eternal your God who will cross over before you, and who will wipe out those nations from your path, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua is the one who shall cross before you, as the Eternal has spoken. The Eternal will do to them as was done to Sihon and Og, kings of the Amorites, and to their countries, when God wiped them out. The Eternal will deliver them up to you, and you shall deal with them in full accordance with the instruction that I have enjoined upon you. Be strong and resolute, be not in fear or in dread of them, For it is indeed the eternal your God who marches with you. God will not fail you or forsake you. Then Moses called Joshua.
Gary, if you can stop in there for a minute.
Yep.
If we go up to the paragraph.
Yep.
Okay, Moses is speaking to everybody. And he says, I'm now 120 years old. Okay, I cannot do the things that I used to do. But then he says to them, for the first time, God told me, you shall not go across yonder to Jordan. You
Right.
will not cross into the promised land. This is the first time that Moses has told this to the people.
Oh, it was the first time, because I thought they knew ahead of time, because none of them that were from that generation ever went across. Remember?
Well, but Joshua did.
Yeah, Joshua and Caleb, they're the only two.
And Caleb, that's right.
Caleb,
To all of Israel.
Okay, but if you remember, Moses was pleading with God. God told him, he says, take a look, down that way. That is the promised land, but you're not going to set foot on it.
I know he wasn't going to see it.
Okay, and Moses was pleading with God to let him do it. He said, take a look at, he said, hey, take a look at all the things that I have accomplished.
I see.
And I am not going to be able to go into the promised land?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of reasons for it, but the one that they always talk about is that he hit the rock instead of spoke to the rock, and that was one of them.
I always think that.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you have a person who has done all these things and followed God and did all these things, because he struck the rock rather than just touching it, that means that he's going to get this kind of punishment?
I know. I think it's crazy too. I agree.
I think it was just God's excuse, because like I said before, it was time for a different type of leader, for a different phase of. Moses was the one that got him out of Egypt, got him through the desert. But now that they're going to be there in the promised land, it's different. And they need a different kind of leader. And I think God used that. And not only that, but also
when he was 120 years old too. That has a lot.
Right, but when he struck the rock, what did he say? When he said, okay, ye rebels, now shall we get water from this rock? So first of all, as a leader, he was getting upset at the people for a legitimate cause because they were worried about water, which is important. It's not like they were just fetching for the sake of fetching. He was like, oh, okay, you rebels. And instead of talking to the rock the way God said, he said, shall we get water for, like almost like he was making it, like him and Aaron were making the water come out of the rock. And that's just the way I interpret it. It doesn't mean I'm right. But you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense though?
Yeah, no, I've seen that several times where God says, "You didn't give me any credit for that water."
He said, you had a chance."
Right.
That was an opportunity for you to sanctify. That was an opportunity for you to sanctify me before the people,
right?
And you didn't.
And it just looked like he somehow had the power.
That makes more sense than just the hitting of the rock. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, he hit the rock, but even before he said it, he's like, okay, you rebels, shall we get you water from this rock?
Yeah.
So he totally left God out of it.
Right.
He got mad at the people for something they legitimately needed.
Right.
And then he makes it seem like he was the one that was doing it instead of God.
Right.
So I think that was one part of it. And I think it goes along with Aaron also. Aaron was the ringleader with the golden calf.
Right.
They had done some things wrong.
Right.
But that I think it was just time for new leadership, and that was God's kind of excuse, But it was something I think that God was really angry about. Just my humble opinion.
We gotta welcome Monique. Monique, good to see you.
Yeah,
Monique.
baby.
Hey,
Oh.
Monique, I have to apologize for getting back to you so late.
Oh, that's okay. I figured you were busy.
I had a ridiculously busy day today, but I'm glad that I finally got to you in time.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, Lashana Tova.
Yeah.
Lashana Tova. Yes. Okay, where was I now?
Number seven.
Seven.
Number 7. Okay. Then Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and resolute, for it is you who shall go up with this people into the land that the Eternal swore to their fathers to give them, and it is you who shall apportion it to them. And it is indeed the Eternal who will go before you. God will be with you, and will not fail you or forsake you. Fear not and be not dismayed." Moses wrote down this teaching and gave it to the priests, sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the Eternal's covenant, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moses instructed them as follows: Every 7th year, the year set for remission, at the Feast of Booths, when all Israel comes to appear before the Eternal your God in the place that God will choose, you shall read this teaching aloud in the presence of all Israel. Gather the people, men, women, children, and the strangers in your communities, that they may hear and so learn to revere the Eternal your God, and to observe faithfully every word of this teaching. Their children too, who have not had the experience, shall hear and learn to revere the Eternal your God as long as they live in the land that you are about to cross the Jordan to possess.
Mm-hmm.
The Eternal One said to Moses, "The time is drawing near for you to die. Call Joshua and present yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may instruct him." Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tent of meeting. The Eternal appeared in the tent in a pillar of cloud, the pillar of cloud having come to rest at the entrance of the tent. The Eternal said to Moses, "You are soon to lie with your ancestors. This people will thereupon go astray after the alien gods in their midst, in the land that they are about to enter. They will forsake me and break my covenant that I made with them. Then my anger will flare up against them, and I will abandon them and hide my countenance from them. They shall be ready prey, and many evils and troubles shall befall them. And they shall say on that day, Surely it is because our God is not in our midst that these evils have befallen us. Yet I will keep my countenance hidden on that day because of all the evil they have done in turning to other gods. Therefore write down this poem and teach it to the people of Israel. Put it in their mouths in order that this poem may be my witness against the people of Israel. When I bring them into the land flowing with milk and honey, that I promised on oath to their fathers, and they eat their fill and grow fat and turn to other gods and serve them, spurning me and breaking my covenant, and the many evils and troubles befall them, then this poem shall confront them as a witness, since it will never be lost from the mouth of their offspring. For I know what plans they are devising even now, before I bring them into the land that I promised on oath.
I mean, it's sad and it's also kind of laughable because God knows us so well. He already knows this is, or she already knows this is what's going to happen. I already know it. Because, and I always go back to the way we're created, right? I mean, we're created to rebel in certain ways, in certain ways. And then I feel like we're all created to rebel. And then somehow we all decide after a long time of rebelling, hey, maybe that's not the best way. So already God knows. Well, God knows. God knows.
I think everybody has to experience teshuvah at some point.
Right.
It depends when, but it has to happen. And I do, that is the thing too about this, like all the time that Moses is trying to keep the people and here after all of that, God says, you're going to be dying soon. And once they get there, they're going to forget everything. They're going to, they're going to get me so angry again. I'll be even more pissed off than I was at them all along, It's like,
and this is his own people. This is like, I feel like in some ways it's like the last shot. You guys are it. This is it. You guys have got it, but you're still gonna go astray. You're still, you're still not gonna get it right.
It's just human. It's human nature.
It is wonderful.
But it's interesting. Even if we got to a point where people were, this is what I feel. If we ever got to a point where everybody started to really coexist better than we've ever had before, there'll always be certain people that will break it up, will not allow that to happen. I just, I just think not everybody can be coexistent.
That's that's an interesting way to look at it. I never thought of it.
There are stinky things, and part of humanity, our character, that,
Right.
we're supposed to tikkun olam, and we pray and we try to improve ourselves. But there are certain reality, like I always point out, the worst thing a person can do to somebody is kill them. Right at the beginning of the Bible, right at the very beginning, we got murder.
That's
I
right.
mean, we start out
Between the
with murder.
brothers, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's right. Not only just murder, but siblings.
Right.
Sibling murder.
Yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
just our nature. We
Yeah.
always like, God talk. I think when God talks about rebelling, it's like you're going against it, but at some point it doesn't. Like you say, Mike, you say it doesn't work, so you have to return.
I
You have to
also believe
return.
that, when you're a teenager, you have to rebel. This is how I feel. You have to rebel to be able to find your own, autonomy. You understand?
Yep.
Yeah.
You really need to do that. And,
Yep.
and I found that, incidentally, children that don't rebel, they do it later on. My mother was a widow, and I never rebelled as a teenager. But boy, did I rebel when I was in my 20s. So it's
I
interesting.
rebelled
It's just,
big.
I rebelled really big in my 20s, but I never rebelled against my mother when I was a teenager. And I couldn't understand why kids would say nasty things about their parents. And then there was a time where my mother and I really were there was a lot of friction between each other. And you'll know when it started, you'll never believe it. I went to Israel on the summer and kibbutz program. They didn't have the what do they call it now? The bar mitzvah thing, right?
Birthright.
The birthright.
birthright.
They didn't have the birthright when I was 19 years old. So I went on a summer and kibbutz program, and I came home and I learned so much, and I was so feeling independent. And my mother wasn't used to having me so independent. And that's when we started having friction with each other. We worked it out, of course. But I'm just saying, in my 20s is when I did all my rebelling. So I believe some point you have to rebel to find yourself. That's my own.
I feel like I was doing that like for most of my life until I was about 30 years old. When Bev and I joined TTI,
yeah,
is when it all start. You start going and you start listening to the prayers, and you listen to the Torah, and you listen to the rabbi talk, do Devar and stuff,
yeah.
and you really start to understand. You get to experience it in a different, you know what I mean? When
Right.
it really means something to you, and that's
Right.
when it really
And when you're
brings you
13
back.
years old, I really believe that, maybe in the olden days, 13 was a more mature person, but 13-year-old kids today, they don't get it until they're like 18, 19, 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a problem about that 13, But
I think if you instill certain things in your kids when they're little, like I grew up in Orthodox. I used to love to go to shul when I was
Yeah,
little.
right.
When I was even before my bar mitzvah, my grandfather was president of a couple of synagogues in Mattapan.
Right.
He gave me my own talit. I used to get
Yeah.
to sit up on the bima with him.
Right.
I thought it was the greatest thing. And then after my bar mitzvah, a couple of years after that, I almost like became an atheist, like for God knows how many. But now I look back and I think like I was like a train running on no tracks.
Right.
It's, I don't claim to be a great person, but I can honestly say I'm way better now than I was when I didn't before Teshuvah.
Well, I think we all get wiser with age.
That's what I mean.
hope so.
It's like once you have Teshuvah, it's like then you concentrate on, following everything and improving yourself. So you constantly.
Hey, Gary,
Yeah.
by the way, since you grew up in Mattapan, my wife is from Dorchester.
I know, we've talked about
Me
that
too.
before.
I'm from Mattapan and Dorchester. Me
And
too.
so is Myrna.
Yeah, that's right. And I grew up with only I didn't even know there was such a thing as conservative reform. I grew up that everything was Orthodox, and I didn't know anything about that. I just always thought everything was Orthodox until I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I moved to Brookline, and you think Brookline being such a Jewish town. So I started going to a conservative synagogue, and I said, wow, the women and men can sit together. That was a new thing for me.
Dr. Mike, the first time I met Laurie, shortly after we consolidated, I think it was on a Saturday, and her and Myrna and I were all talking about Mattapan and the
Yeah.
G&G and
Oh,
all
the
these places on
G&G.
Blue Hill
That
Ave,
was a
the
wonderful
Grove Hall
deli.
Bank,
Oh,
the
God.
Morton
And-
Movie
and-
Theater.
And if you
Oh,
remember,
God.
her father had a store in there for something like about
Yep.
45 Cantor's
Oh.
curtain shop.
Yep.
Right. And there were so many kosher butchers and there was kosher bakeries. Everything
And
was
Max-
like it was really like
Max
a little
Nimoy had his barber shop there.
right.
And come to find out that Max Nimoy is Dr. Ed's cousin.
Oh, that's funny.
Really?
You know what?
Nimoy-
If you
Leonard-
start looking
yeah.
at all of us, we're related somehow. I really mean it. I do believe that
Well,
because I
and-
have to tell you,
And,
you know,
as you and as,
everybody knew each other. You know, I was 6 years old and my mother was doing something and I was in a drugstore where one of my mother's friend's son was like a soda pop guy, whatever a soda jerk, I forgot what they call it. And I was 6 and I saw this double bubble gum and I wanted it. I didn't tell my mother and I put it in my pocket. Well, he saw me. And I want you to know it was my first time really understanding that I stole something. And he says, I'm going to tell your mother. And my mother was doing something in the other part of the store. And she didn't say anything to me when we got home. And she never said anything to me. And so I was waiting by the phone that he was going to call her. I remember that whole day, I waited by the phone, waiting to have to deal with this. Because I stole that double bubble gum. It was a penny in those days.
Hey, you got to start off somewhere, Ruthie, you know? Then you move on to bigger
I
things.
was
You know,
a
you hit a
thief
few,
from 6 years old.
then you do a few smash and grabs, and then, you know, you work your way up there, you know?
Right? Yeah.
Like the Lufthansa heist that they talk about in Goodfellas.
That
Al
was my
Capone,
first.
next
But you want to
door.
know something? I was so scared I never stole again. So actually, it was good I did it at 6 years old.
Maybe that's why the guy told you that, just to put that little,
Just
keep it hanging over
and he
you.
never called my mother or anything. I think he just did it to scare me, you know?
That's what I mean, to keep it in your mind hanging over you.
Yeah, right.
Okay, does anybody else want to read, or do you want me to keep going? I don't care either way.
I think that Monique looks ready.
I can read.
Okay.
Where are we?
22.
All the
22.
way down at the bottom, yeah.
Oh,
That day Moses wrote down this poem and taught it to the Israelites. And God charged Joshua, son of Nun, be strong and resolute, for you shall bring the Israelites into the land that I promised them on oath, and I will be with you. When Moses had put down in writing the words of this teaching to the very end, Moses charged the Levites who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Eternal, saying, take this book of teaching and place it beside the Ark of the Covenant of the Eternal your God, and let it remain there as a witness against you. Well, I know how defiant and stiff-necked you are. Even now, while I'm still alive in your midst, you have been defiant towards the Eternal. How much more than when I am dead? Gather to me all the elders of your tribes and your officials, that I may speak all these words to them, and that I may call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that when I am dead, you will act wickedly and turn away from the path that I enjoined upon you, and that in time to come misfortune will befall you for having done evil in the sight of the Eternal, whom you vexed by your deeds. Then Moses recited the words of the following poem to the very end in the hearing of the whole congregation of Israel.
Yep, that was it. And then the last, oh no, the next, Ha'azinu.
The next one is the poem? Wow.
Yeah, and then Vazota Bracha.
That's a
I
big
I
thing.
always keep talking about how I love Deuteronomy. It just has such a different tone than the whole rest of. It's just Moses like summarizing, ranting, and raving.
Yeah.
Now it's the end. It's his end of his like tenure, so now he can
Right.
talk and say all these things. You know,
Right.
It's
Really
like so-
condensed. It's all condensed.
Yeah.
Package.
Right.
it's all in there. Like if it's the only book that you read, like you'd still have a good. To me, it
Right.
sounds like you'd still have a good balance of it. You know,
Yeah.
the 5
Right.
books.
Gary, where is the poem?
In
It's in the next-
in the next chapter.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The ultimate cliffhanger.
Ha'azin.
Come back
Yeah, we
next
have to
week,
wait till
and you
next
will do.
week,
We will read the
Marty.
poem.
Is this the end for Moses and the children of Israel? Will they
Tune in
reach
next
the
week.
promised land?
Does
the back
Moses
poles,
get
Josh.
to recite
Right,
the poem
Moses.
without interruption?
Yep.
All right, no,
To the
no
bat poles,
commercials.
Dick. Right, Bruce.
It's commercial free.
Yeah, baby. And we'll
All
be
right, well,
back
this was
right
a
after
wonderful,
this
this was a
message
really,
from our
I love this
sponsor.
Pasha. This is a very good Pasha. I got a lot out of it.
This is
really.
great stuff. That's my bar mitzvah pasha.
All right, well, you're
Listen,
very special.
Nitzavim. Oh, baby. And that's
All right.
you know, when we were in person, I used to love to hold up my talit and show off the years of sweat. I should do that on Zoom because I don't do it in person, but I still should be doing that. Usually to Myrna, I used to like to show her all the sweat around my talit. And we hadn't been physically in the temple for a couple of years,
Well,
so now
listen,
there's a couple.
after Thanksgiving, hopefully we'll all be back. It'll be good.
But next year is going to be the 50th anniversary of my bar mitzvah. By then, that collar's it's going to have so much sweat and everything on it. What a trademark! All those services, all that sweat,
All those
that
prayers.
worshiping.
All that
Huh?
prayers. Yeah, the song.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
in there.
It's all in
And
there.
you know that it's so weird too, because you know when in the Mishkan Tefillah book, and I know Iris used to like to read this a lot.
Yeah.
It's that prayer about putting on the talit and how you feel when you're wrapped in the talit, and it's so weird because I have two talit, but one of them, the one my grandmother gave me for my bar mitzvah, like when I put that one on, it's like I almost feel like she's giving me a hug, you know?
Wow.
That's nice. Well, it's actually like that when you wear the talit, it's supposed to wrap you. You know, it should be wrapped around yourself. It's not just the material, but it's like the whole Torah is wrapped around you.
Yep.
Wow. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, a lot of the Orthodox they bury them that way, right? You just wrap them in talit.
Absolutely. You never.
That's
you
the way
never
Muslims
throw them
bury
away,
people.
right? It's like books. You're never supposed to. You always bury any book that has Hebrew in it.
Or the Torah. If it gets
No.
destroyed.
It's not that it has Hebrew in it. It has the name of God in it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the Hebrew language.
No, because I mean, you can have a book that is written in Hebrew,
Yeah.
and you can do it whatever you want.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It could be like a
if you ha-
novel. You're right.
If you
you're right.
have God's name in it, it's
Oh, yeah,
good.
God's name in it. That's right. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right.
It's just rude. I gotta make sure that you say it correctly, baby. You know.
I know.
I remember
I'm
I remember-
giving all the wrong answers here.
I know